good morning students. We have started the skeletal system. In the previous classes we have studied about the function of skeletal system. We have discussed about different types of bones, long bone, short bone, flat bone and irregular bone, then their connectivity, their role in the body. Today we will discuss about the major division of human skeleton, and in this let's start with this topic, the human skeleton. It is divisible into two regions. One is the axial skeleton. Axial skeleton forms the major framework of the body. So what is the role of axial skeleton? It forms major framework of the body. Then major framework which decides the shape of the body, which maintains the shape, size and the overall personality of a person. That is, the overall characteristic is defined by the axial skeleton, and it includes skull and the vertebral column. So the part of axial skeleton is skull and the vertebral column. Skull, which is also known as the brain box or the cranium, and vertebra, different vertebrae, lumbar, thoracic, sacral, cervical. This we have studied already. So let's move to the next. That is the apendicular skeleton. Apendicular skeleton includes all the bones which supports the axial skeleton. All the bones of limbs, bones and the girdles, pectoral girdle, which is the shoulder girdle, pelvic girdle or the hip joint. So this bones of limbs and girdle, this is a supporting system to the axial skeleton. Next, so first of all we'll discuss about the axial skeleton, parts of the axial skeleton. And of this, the first one is the skull. The skull, it is also known as cranium or the brain box. Its function is the protection of inner delicate membranes of the brain or inner delicate part of brain. So this function is protection of brain. Then how many bones are present in cranium? Total 8 bones. Total 8 bones are present in the cranium, and these bones are tightly packed. They are immovable bones. 8 bones, and these bones are immovable. Next is face bones. In the cranium or in the skull part, after the covering, the brain box, the lower portions are the face bones, and these bones are total 14 in number. 14 face bones, and these bones are irregular in shape. Next is one word I have written here, foramen magnum. Foramen magnum is a hole through which the spinal cord emerges from the brain, enters into the vertebral column. So if I am drawing a rough diagram of this, suppose this is a structure, this is skull, then a hole through which spinal cord emerges. So a hole through which spinal cord emerges from brain and enters into vertebral column. So you just mark star over this foramen magnum. One word answer, foramen magnum. What is foramen magnum? Foramen magnum is a cavity or a hole through which spinal cord emerges from brain and enters into the vertebral column. Second is vertebral column. Skull we have discussed. Second number is vertebral column. In the vertebral column, first is number of vertebra. Vertebral column, it extends from the lower part of the skull up to the complete backbone and ends into the tailbone or the coccyx. So here number of vertebra is 33 if they are counted individually. 33 individual vertebra. But if some of the vertebrae are in a fused state, so the number becomes 26 in fused state. If we are in fused bones also, we can say not fused state, fused bones 26. If we are counting in fused bones, counting the fused bones, so 26 in number of vertebrae is actually 26. If individually they are counted, then 33. Here I have written a formula to memorize all the vertebrae or the number of vertebra. It is C7, T12, L5, S5 and C4. Now what this represents? C7 is for 7 cervical vertebra. 7 cervical, which is basically in the neck region. 7 cervical vertebra. In this 7, the first and second. First is atlas. First vertebra is known as atlas and the second is axis. Axis here. And after that the third, fourth and fifth comes. So here first and second is, first is atlas and second is axis. These two are the part of cervical, 7 cervical vertebrae. Then T12. 12 thoracic. 12 thoracic vertebra. Then L5. 5 lumbar vertebra. S5. This 5 I have written in bracket because these 5 sacrum, 5 bones fused to form one. Fused to form one. So that's why I have written it in bracket. 5 fused bones fused to form one. Then C4. Here also in bracket 4 coccyx. And here 4 bones fused to form one. This one. 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, L5 lumbar, 5 sacrum, 5 fused sacrum to form one, 4 fused coccyx to form one. So this is total 26 vertebrae and region. Thoracic region is the chest cavity region. 12th after that the next region, which is the stomach portion. There comes the lumbar vertebra. Next to it is the sacrum and the coccyx is the tailbone, which ends into the hip bone. So this is all about the vertebral column. Now the structure of vertebra. Structure of a single vertebra. I have drawn a rough diagram because on this board neat diagram is not possible. I will show you the diagram in the next clip. So here in this diagram you can see that this type of elevation is there, and this elevation is termed as neural spine. This elevation is the neural spine. Next is the arc. This arc is termed as neural arc. This cavity is the neural canal. So neural canal covered with neural arc, and the elevation is the neural spine. Next is here the net-like structures shown here. This is for anterior facet for articulation with condyles of skull. Condyles of skull means the skull, here the articulation. This articulation is provided by the facets. Facets or the surfaces these surfaces help in articulation or joining of the vertebra with the skull region. Then this region is the ligament. If you remember that joint in this section, we have written that MTB, BLB. Now what is this? MTB is muscle to bone. The joining a muscle to bone is by tendon and bone to bone is by ligament. So this bone to bone joining is by ligament. Ligaments, the ligament joint. BLB, bone to bone joining is by ligament. Muscle to bone, tendon, MTB. So this is about the structure. Then next, this diagram is of thoracic vertebra. This diagram of atlas. Atlas vertebra. Atlas was the first vertebra of cervical. Here, this is thoracic vertebra. Thoracic. So this structure of thoracic, same structure is there. Transverse processes are there. Transverse processes help in proper articulation so that it would not enter into the second vertebra. It not enter completely into this. So this transverse process articulation help in proper arrangement of the vertebra one over the other. Next, this structure. This structure is termed as centrum or the central region, which is placed one above the other, which helps this complete. It is a platform which provides proper articulation of the vertebra in the vertebral column. This is the neural spine, neural canal and the neural arc. This is the structure of thoracic vertebra. Next one word is written here, gristle or intervertebral disc. Gristle or intervertebral disc is a cushion or pad of cartilage. A cushion like structure or pad like structure between two vertebra. This structure is of cartilage to provide proper articulation to avoid friction between the vertebra. A little bit movement is because the vertebral columns are partially movable, so that movement is provided by the cushion between the two vertebra, that is gristle. Next is sternum. In the sternum is a single flat bone present or it is termed as breastbone, present in the frontal part of the body, to which all the ribs are attached, or it forms a rib cage. Ribs forms a rib cage by attaching with the sternum. The single flat bone to which ribs are attached. So this frontal part or the flat bone to which ribs are attached, forming a cage, it is termed as sternum. Sternum. Single flat bone. This is breastbone. Forms the rib cage. Next is ribs. Number of ribs. There are total 12 pairs of ribs. 12 pairs of ribs means 12 on each side of the chest cavity, and out of this 12, first 7, 1 to 7 ribs are termed as true ribs. True ribs. 8th, 9th and 10th ribs are false ribs. 11th and 12th ribs are floating ribs. Floating ribs. True ribs, as they are attached with sternum. False rib, they are attached with seventh rib. And floating, they are freely or they are free or they are near or not attached with sternum or any of the ribs. So here this is about the ribs. Total 12 pairs. Out of 12, 1 to 7 are the true ribs. These ribs are attached with the sternum as I have shown here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and the next is 7th. This is the structure of these ribs 1 to 7, 3, 6, one more is there, 7 and the 8th. 8th is attached with this one like this. 8th, 9th and 10th attached with the 7th rib. 8, 9, 10 attached with the 7th rib, so they are not directly attached with the sternum, so they are false ribs. Rest 2, the last 2, 11th and 12th are floating ribs. They are not attached with the sternum or any of the ribs. Now we will study about bones of limbs and bones of limbs, bones of forelimb and the hind limb and this. Let's start with this one, bones of hand, this one arm. This is termed as humerus. Humerus. This one is radius. Low one is ulna. This is the carpal. Metacarpal. Next is bones of limbs. Bones of limb. Bones of this arm. Here, this is the humerus. The thick bone. It contains 2 bones. The thick bone is termed as this radius, and the lower bone is the ulna. Then carpal, metacarpal, phalanges. A rough diagram to describe this: humerus, radius, ulna. This part, this wrist part, it contains total 8 bones. 8 bones in the carpal. Box-like bones, short bones, and these bones show the gliding movement. They slide over one another. So this gliding movement is shown by the carpals. Next to this is 5 metacarpals. 5 metacarpals. Phalanges. These bones, the short bones in the finger, all the short bones, these short bones are termed as phalanges, and there are total 14 phalanges. In all this 4 3s are 12, and this one in the thumb only 2 bones are there, so total 14 in the phalanges region. Here humerus, one bone, single bone is there, radius 1, ulna 1. If we are counting on both sides, then 2 humerus, 2 radius, 2 ulna, 16 carpals, some 16 bones in the carpal, 10 metacarpal and 28 phalanges. Now come to the hind limb or the leg portion. This is the long bone with a head. this head. Here also this one. Femur, and this is termed as femur head. The long bone is the femur bone. The thick bone in the next part below the knee portion. The thick bone is the tibia. The thin bone is fibula. Just below is tarsals. Total bone in the carpal, total number of bone is 8, but in tarsals total number of bone is 7. Next is metatarsal. Metatarsal is again 5 in number. Phalanges, this is also 14 in number. Tibia 1, fibula 1, femur 1. Now femur head. Why I have written this is, this femur head fits into a cavity. This cavity is of pelvic girdle. Cavity of pelvic girdle, and in which it fits, and this cavity is termed as acetabulum. Just make a star. I am marking it with a star. Acetabulum, the cavity in the pelvic girdle in which the femur head fits, and this is a ball and socket joint. Ball and socket, this will study in the next part, but here I am mentioning it. Ball and socket joint, where it fits into the acetabulum pelvic girdle cavity. Now this humerus, head of the humerus, it fits into the glenoid cavity. Glenoid cavity, and here also star mark. Glenoid cavity, it is cavity in the pectoral girdle, pectoral or shoulder girdle, So in this cavity, the humerus head fits into the shoulder girdle, or the cavity of the shoulder girdle, and that cavity is called glenoid cavity. Cavity of the hip girdle or the pectoral pelvic girdle is the acetabulum in which humerus head fits. This is the last part of this section, this class, and in this we'll summarize total number of bones in a human skeleton. So let's start with this rough diagram. This is the cranium or the skull. Number of bones is 8 bones. This is the jaw, mandible, and in the total face bones are 14 in number. 14 face bones. In the skull region, cranium, the brain box, 8 immovable bones tightly packed together. Face bones total 14 in number, including the jaw. Teeth is not a part of skeletal system. Then this region, cervical, 7 cervical vertebra, then 12 thoracic, then 5 lumbar, 5 fused sacrum, and 4 fused, this tailbone, last one, 4 fused coccyx. This is about the vertebral column. This vertebral column, total vertebra, number of vertebra is 33 individually and 26 when counted in fused with the fused bones. This one. Now come to this part. Here this bone is called the collar bone. Collar bone. And the name of the collarbone is clavicle. Clavicle or the collarbone. Then the shoulder bone. Here, this one. shoulder bone. Next is the cavity here, which is the glenoid cavity. Glenoid cavity. Glenoid cavity. This part, this is humerus. Humerus. Next to this, radius ulna. Thicker part is the radius. Thin is the ulna. This one, wrist region, carpals. Carpals. After that, 5 metacarpal. And then the phalanges. Phalanges, I am drawing this dots. Total phalanges 14 in number. Carpals total 8 bones. Metacarpals 5 in number. Next, the cavity in which humerus is fit is the glenoid cavity. Clavicle is there. Scapula. Scapula is the shoulder girdle. Shoulder girdle. Sorry, not girdle. Shoulder blade. Shoulder blade. This one. Now come to the lower part here. This one is the pelvic girdle. Pelvic girdle or hip joint. In this, the cavity present here is the acetabulum. First is the femur bone. Next is tibia, fibula. Then tibia, fibula. The thicker one is the tibia. Next is the fibula. Then in this one, ankle. Ankle is the tarsal. 5 bones here. This is metatarsal. Metatarsal. And the bones of toes, that is phalanges. Phalanges total 14. Metatarsal total 5. Tarsal 7 in number. This is all about all the bones and the cavities once again. Here let's start with this one. Cranium or the brain box, total 8 in number. Facial bones, total 14 in number. Cervical, in the neck region 7 cervical. In the vertebral column complete 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 fused sacrum, 4 fused coccyx. Now come to this part. Collarbone, clavicle, shoulder blade, scapula, this girdle is the pectoral girdle. The cavity in which this humerus head fits is the glenoid cavity. This long bone is the humerus. Here 2 bones are present. The thick one is the thicker one is the here I have written. The thick one is the radius. Lower is the ulna. This one carpal, metacarpal, then the bones in the finger is the phalanges, total 14 in number. Now come to the lower part, this girdle, the girdle which surrounds around kidney, that is the pelvic girdle. In the pelvic girdle, the cavity present in the pelvic girdle is the acetabulum, in which the long bone, the thigh bone is femur bone. The femur head fits into the cavity which is acetabulum. Next part, lower to the knee is 2 bones are present. Thicker one is tibia, thinner is the fibula. Lower to it, the ankle portion, tarsal, total 7 in number. 5 metatarsal, this in the foot region, 5 metatarsals are present. Toes, total 14 phalanges are there. This kneecap. Here I missed kneecap. kneecap, which is termed as patella, and it is extension or it is formed of cartilage, not cartilage, it is made up of tendon or extension of a tendon. Patella or kneecap, which protects the joint between femur and the tibia fibula. So this is all about all types of bone, and in the next picture I will show you all the diagrams which are given in the book. So you can see this is a diagram of a skeletal system, then all the structures of the vertebral column in the next few slides, so that it would you can make a coordination with the diagram, because the diagrams are rough diagram which I have drawn here. Hope you have understood this all types of bones. In the next class we'll study about joints.